Guys, welcome. Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you very much for joining us for this session. This is something that we would like to host for a long time in YSI. And it's a pleasure to have most people who started YSI here with us, bringing their ideas on the transition between a young scholar and an early career researcher. Just some words. I mean, when we started YSI kind of 8, 9 years ago, there's a group of motivated young scholars that started bringing questions, ideas to discuss the state of the field of economics and try to create an international network. The challenges at that time were specific to curricula change or to questioning the way economics was taught. But then, these young scholars started becoming not so young scholars. And then we started getting older. And when we started finishing our PhDs and entering the job market, getting positions, the challenge started changing from YSI. So the community grew. The community grew not only in size, but also in terms of its ideas and its objectives. So somehow we had to adapt to these new conditions in which these young scholars started becoming like kind of senior or young senior scholars. And then this transition period is a very tough period for all of us. So the idea today is to discuss in the sense of YSI, how this transition works and how YSI can help the transition between a young scholars to established academic happens. And in order to do so, we debate the job market. So after we finish our PhDs, until we get a permanent or a fixed term position that could lead us to a permanent position. In order to do so, we bring young scholars that helped us build this community, people that have been with us since the beginning, working a lot to make this also happen. And they also had a very peculiar experience in the job market and how to use YSI also as a platform to help them to find a good academic position. And they all managed to, at least at this point, find an academic position after facing the market in different parts of the world. So here we have 4 young scholars that are part of our initial batch of people here in this community. And all of them found a position. Rafael, let me introduce you very briefly. Rafael Ribeiro is now in Brazil as an assistant professor. Olga is in London right now as a research fellow. And we also have Peter Bent, who is also an associate professor. He got a position in Europe, now he's in the US. And Mary Kaltenberg, maybe she will join us later. She also got a position in the US. So we have people from different continents that can talk about the specific challenge of the job market for us. And the job market is a very peculiar process for all the economists. So first, I will start this session by asking our speakers to present themselves, to explain a bit about their trajectory, and to tell us how the job market worked for them. Just an initial idea on how the process was for them. It can be not only in terms of the practical terms, but how you felt during the process, and if you have some tips to our audience about that. Maybe we can start with Rafael, then we go to Olga, and finally with Peter. So is it okay, Rafael? Could I please ask you to start, and then thank you very much for accepting our invitation.
Yes. Hi all. My name is Rafael Ribeiro. Right. First of all, thank you very much, Danilo, Jay, and all the others for the kind invitation. I think this is a key topic that must be discussed, and the sooner the better, right? Regardless of the stage of your career. But I took my PhD. I did my PhD in Cambridge, UK, right, on the area of growth, development, so to speak. Let's speak like very broadly, speaking on growth, development, income distribution, and technological change. All this combining stuff together. But and now I got a position. I got tenure here in Brazil, and I teach econometrics mainly, right, and also econometrics applied to macroeconomic issues. So my main area, I would say, is macroeconomics, but it's most like applied economists these days. I'll pass the word to the other ones to introduce themselves, and we can start the actual conversation.
Yes, thank you, Rafael. Olga, please, the floor is totally yours.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for inviting. I'm happy to share my insights and experience. I'm currently a Marie Curie Research Fellow at University College London in Institute for Innovation Public Purpose, directed by Mariana Mazzucato, who is one of the YSI mentors. And I think I have a mix of purely university-based, like academic research experience, but I also worked in policy evaluation and advisory field. Also at IPP, we are combining research, academic research, but also trying to contribute to policy-oriented projects by consulting local or national governments on helping them design industrial strategies or green strategies, or trying to explain how in the political realm, how it's possible to implement mission-oriented thinking, which Mariana and the team has been developing further. So I think to summarize, I'm happy to talk about my experience in how academic research can be combined and put forth into the policy making or policy advisory. And I think it's related to the broader topic, maybe we can touch upon that today, is that, that profile of a younger researcher nowadays, not necessarily who wants to work in policy making, but I think there are, greater demands on our generation of researchers and academics not to shy away from commenting and actively participating in policy discussions rather than, conventionally sitting at universities just publishing papers. So I think it's an opportunity, but also it's quite a challenge, especially for younger academics.
Thank you, Olga. Peter, the floor is yours. And then we also have, sorry, Peter, we also have some more people that feel free to join. We have here Jerome and Miriam, all people that are for the first batch of the Young Scholars Initiative. So you two also have been in the process of the job market. So feel free to give your insights as well. And everyone else, I will open the floor very soon for everyone to present your thoughts and ideas. So Peter, sorry, the floor is totally yours. Thank you.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. Is that sound going through okay? Yeah, okay, great. So my name is Peter Bent. I've been involved with the Economic History Working Group through YSI. I'm really sad that we're not all together in person, but this is working out as a good alternative. And I finished graduate school a few years ago and was teaching at an American liberal arts college in Paris these past 2 years, and now I'm teaching at Trinity College in Connecticut in the US. And I was trying to think of what, I could bring to this conversation that might be unique or especially helpful for people. And one thing I can offer, I think, is my experience in, specifically an American liberal arts college, because I studied all over the world, have friends doing research connections all over the world. And when I've talked about the economics job market process with people in other countries, they'll often say, okay, well, when we look at the list of jobs that are available in the US, I don't really know what the difference is between like a Trinity College and the University of Ohio or Berkeley or a big research. And there really are some, and in order to be competitive there, job application really has to be tailored in a different way. So if anybody's interested in ever applying to a job like that at a US Liberal Arts College, I'd be more than happy to talk with you one-on-one. If you want to email me, please feel free to do so, because I'm about to start my morning commute and I'm going to try to switch from my laptop to my phone and I might lose connection here. So please, contact me anytime. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Now I think I can start asking the question. I mean, how was the process of facing the job market for you? I mean, you've been all facing the job market different perspectives. Rafael has been facing the Brazilian job market, Olga in Europe, Peter in the US. I am applying, so I have been through the process and all these documents that we need to face and the rules of behavior that we need to have when we go to an interview. What's the experience for you, and what can you say to the people that are actually looking at the job market in the future? If you have any tips, any ideas and insights that you could add to help everyone to think about their applications. Yes, maybe Rafael, if you'd like to go.
Okay. First of all, I think that there's no like one recipe that we can follow to actually get in the job market and actually be successful. But first, you have to try to understand, I guess, all the institutional framework of the place you want to work at, right? On the country you're based at, or the country that you want to work at, the hubs, right? Because the process, I mean, we all have, we usually don't share our sorrows, right? So basically everybody has their own sorrows. What I mean is the process of getting tenure or actually getting a job in Brazil is not entirely different, but substantially different from the same process in the US or in Europe or Asia and so on, right? So first of all, you have to understand the institutional framework, the idiosyncrasies in which you insert, right? Because you have to, I mean, you have to understand the stuff so you don't go randomly doing lots of stuffs and not being focused on the main purpose, which should be, at least, I guess, after you finishing your degree, getting a job, right? So what I can say is, in my case, for instance, I used to see myself as a purely, so to speak, theoretical economist, right? I used to do theory. I used to work with mathematical models, and I didn't work very much with econometrics, actually. And to be honest, I didn't even actually care much about econometrics back then. But what happens is, okay, I used to do research on macroeconomics, and when I got back here into Brazil, I found out that it was quite difficult at the time to get a job teaching macroeconomics in the top universities of the country. So there was no position available for macroeconomists. And so, I mean, there was one position in econometrics which I applied, and I got the position, right? So I got tenure here. It's a different process than US, right? So I mean, I'm a professor here. I'm not a full professor, but I'm a professor. But I have tenure, right? So I have the different degrees in the hierarchy. But still, what I'm going to say is, I used to think that, okay, to find a job is, in a sense, I mean, if you work hard, if you publish your papers, then, I mean, it's going to be natural. You're going to find a job, right? That easy. But unfortunately, it's not that easy, or it's not that the way that it usually happens, right? Because, I mean, speaking frankly and openly about this stuff, if I may, economics, or maybe, I mean, it's not just economics, right? But economics is clubby, right? I mean, it depends on your connections, depends on your networks, right? On where you're gonna work at. Obviously, I mean, if you want to get a good position, you must have the skills, you must have, I mean, you must be competent, right? But it's not just like, it's a necessary condition, but it's not sufficient in most of times, right? So what I'm going to say is the following. In Brazil, it's different, the process, because, I mean, if you want to get a job in the top university, you need to do it. I mean, because the top universities in Brazil are public universities. So once you become a professor, you also become a public servant, right? So the process of hiring a professor obviously happens through interviews, but also there's a long, difficult process of interviewing and writing exams and so on, right? So there's a very objective part, but there's also a subjective part, right? And obviously, I mean, if you think as an employer, right? Someone who will employ a young professor or a young professional. You want to work with someone that you can rely on, someone that's kind of in line with your ideas or research programs and your research groups and so on, right? So that's what I'm saying, that you must be always, you must pay attention to first, how the processes are conducted, right? For hiring people. You must kind of be able to, you must work on your networks, right? And this is where YSI is key, right? YSI is important. Why? Because if you get locked inside, for instance, with people from your lab, right, in your hometown, and you don't create different connections with different people from different parts of the world that are participating in different research projects and so on, it's probably going to be difficult for you to open the possibilities of your job market, right? So the YSI is key in this issue because it allows you to expand your ideas, to expand your networks, right? To get in contact, with journal editors, high-profile speakers, other young scholars that will take positions in different countries and in different possibilities and so on, right? So, YSI is key in this issue, right? So you must take this opportunity of participating in YSI. I think the most you engage, right, the better for you in terms of a network. So try to see YSI as this community that can actually help you, right? Not just provide some fun, but also help you in the sense of building some solid network that you can profit from in the future, right? And just to finish my talk, which is quite long by now, what I'm trying to talk about my trajectory, because it helps for you to understand somehow. Once you see other people's trajectory, it helps you sometimes to think about yourself. But I used to work as a theoretical economist, and then I found a job, a position in econometrics, right? So today I teach econometrics for grads and undergrad students, supervise PhD dissertations, master dissertations, and so on. So, but also, like Olga, I also work providing like conducting studies for private and public sectors, right? Consultancy studies, and that could actually help like policy. Right. So, for instance, I conducted some studies, for instance, for different sectors in Brazil. Like, I'm not going to get into details about this stuff, but different sectors, like, and to measure the impacts of trade liberalization for different sectors in Brazil. Right. I also provide consultancy studies for government, for local governments, federal governments, and so on. So, it happens that you must try to, what I'm trying to say is, sometimes we get too focused on our own research and stuff, but we must be able to somehow think, okay, what do the employer want from me somehow, right? So, if I get too strict, or if I go too narrow on my own research agenda, it's probably going to get difficult for you to open different possibilities, if you know what I mean, right? So, if you can somehow expand the possibilities by okay, you conduct your research, but if you also get involved, obviously time is a constraint, always, but you must always be open to somehow experience or engage yourself in different research activities that you never done before, right? You're going to be capable to do this, right? Even if you don't think, okay, I don't know how to do this, but just if sometimes if the opportunity shows up, why not to take it? You know what I mean? So try to open or be open to possibilities whenever they come to you, right? So, because it's going to give you more, it's going to give you different skills, and it's also going to open new networks in different areas that you don't have or that you're not inserted in the moment. So this may help you also to expand your networks, right? So engage in different activities as well. I think it may help. Okay, we're just starting the conversation. I'll give the others I'll pass the others the word.
Okay. Thanks, Rafa. Olga, yes, please, if you'd like to add.
You asked about the how did I start, or like after, how did I start looking for a job after completing PhD?
What was your experience? I mean, how it was for you? Yeah. Exactly.
Well, I think there are so many routes. I mean, right, and like Raphael said, I mean, if you want to lean towards, theoretical work, if you want to be a lecturer, if you want to dedicate time to teaching, if you want to really full-time belong to the public or, university, or if you want to do applied research, if you want to combine teaching with research, or, so I think it's worth thinking about what type of route you want to take before you submit, PhD thesis to the printing office. I think in my case, I was aware that I didn't want to just jump from one postdoc to another just because I wanted to fill my CV with, not leaving any gaps there, And I think I had a conservative view on just moving around and jumping, like 1 year I'm here and 1 year I'm there. So, but I also was quite certain that I wanted to do policy-related work, not in the capacity of working for any government, but in terms of not only writing about policies from the political economy perspective, but also actually to see how policies are designed and what kind of feedback non-policymakers can provide. And that here we're talking about all this myriad of consultancy firms, but also organized other interest groups and stuff. And so I figured that, one way of getting that experience is by engaging in policy evaluation, policy advisory work. And so I was looking around but that was before I finished formally PhD, because, that last kind of leg can take some time with corrections and proofs and all that. So I started working in science, technology, innovation kind of specialized firm, which is quite small, but is quite known in Europe. And then it was very useful, and I got the experience that I hoped for. But the challenge was, of course, because I came from university, the challenge was to really communicate my ideas, and of course, writing policy reports and talk with policymakers. You have to speak their jargon, and that took some time to learn. It doesn't come automatically. So something that, worth keeping in mind. But then that, of course, was a very useful experience, because then you also, when I work on my research articles, I immediately can see the gap between how researchers think of how decisions are made and how they're actually made. So, I mean, in that sense, I think I didn't have to send out tremendously large amount of applications. But then I got the job, and then I was applying for postdoc or European funds for young researchers, which would allow me to work with a team of people that I want to work. And that took 2 years. And then finally I got the Marie Curie grant. So I could really I could join the team that I wanted to work with. So that would be a summary.
Thank you, Olga. So guys, I mean, everyone feel free to open your cameras. I'll ask you guys to also feel free to ask questions, raise your hands, and then we can keep the discussion to have more interaction. I wanted the speakers to show a bit about I will ask Peter as well, but I just want to say that I want everyone to feel that we are in this interaction. So everybody feel free to share also your concerns, your experience, or your ideas. So yeah, and then feel free to write it in the chat as well. Peter, please, would you like to add something?
Sure, yeah. I really appreciate hearing those experiences from Olga and Raphael, and it made me think of a few things, but also I just wanted to highlight that that there is no one clear, one clear path to finding a job. And so I went through an American PhD program, did the standards, send out 120 applications in the fall of your final year, do the whole AA job market experience. And the first year that I did that, it's a pretty horrible 7 months or whatever of your life. And what happened in the end was I had had interviews, had flyouts, had the whole experience. And then by the time spring rolled around, I was looking at a few opportunities. And then I got an email from somebody who I knew through YSI. I had gone to one workshop that she organized, and then saw her again at a plenary, and we had a nice talk over dinner. And then she emailed me that spring when I was looking for a job and said, "Hey, you know what? I teach in an economics department. It's a small university. We don't want to just advertise to the whole world and have 1,000 applications that we have to sift through. So the chair of the department asked us to contact a few people we might know through our networks from conferences and things who might have research interests that fit what we're looking for and the ability to teach the kinds of classes we're looking for." And so I had a few then pretty informal conversations with the chair of that department and ended up getting a job that way. So, it's literally because of my participation in YSI and, nice talks over dinners and things like that about research interests. And that ended up getting me my, my first job. So, there are a lot of paths. There are so many different, sleepless nights I spent wondering what font my CV should be in, or if my research interest should be above my teaching interests. And all of that's important. I think little things can signal a lot to a school. And, the only general advice I have there is be both specific and general. I did send out 70, 80, 90 applications to jobs that I didn't think I was necessarily a great fit for or that I was super excited about. But I got some random interviews with some of those random jobs. But I also took a smaller number of jobs, 10, 15, that I was really interested in, that had, more heterodox friendly departments, that had researchers who I knew I'd be interested in working with. And with those jobs, I really spent time tailoring the cover letter, talking to people in my network, saying if they knew people there who could put in a good word for me, and, really making a case that I was a good fit for the specific role they were hiring for in that department. So finding that balance between, applying very widely all over the world to all different kinds of positions, and also being like, these are my strengths. I think I would be a good fit here. And like Raphael was saying, there's so many specific sort of unwritten rules or norms across, at least in academia, across different countries. And it's one thing to apply, the AEA jobs, the Joe website, those are generally pretty open and international. And so if you think like, okay, well, my partner's from Italy, I really need to end up in an Italian university. The 2 or 3 Italian universities they're posting to the American Economic Association will tend to be more open to international applicants. But if you just start applying to every Italian university and you don't have, a space in Italian academia, it's going to be not a great use of your time, and you might be setting yourself up for frustration. So if you say, okay, I really want to work in, Brazil, whatever, then make sure you know the system there, know people there, and again, unless it's one of the handful of more internationally oriented universities, it's just important to keep expectations realistic too.
Yeah, I just would like to add something to what Peter and Olga said. There's no illusion about that. You're gonna try many times, you're gonna fail many times, right? And that's part of the game, right? So try not to feel down about that, right? If it happens, it's gonna take a while, right? It took me like 2 years also to find a position. But to be, today I have a very pragmatic view about finding a job, than I used to have back when I was doing my PhD. What I think is that, okay, try to think strategically in a sense that, okay, this type of research that I'm conducting now, who is going to hire me if I for what I'm doing here now, right? Okay, so who's going to hire me in the sense, okay, if I want to pursue an academic career, right? Which universities are in line with this research that I'm conducting now, right? Which universities have research groups that are in line with the same methodology, with the same, theoretical approach and so on, right? Not here, for instance, not only in Brazil or in Europe but also, you can think worldwide, right? So first of all, you have to try to figure out what you're studying and who you can connect with, right? And also try to get in touch with these people. Obviously, the sooner the better, right? But also, I think not only if you want to pursue an academic career, but if you want to go to the private sector, right, or consultancy firms, or policy making, public sector, and so on, you must try to figure out from now, right, where you're gonna get it, right? Where's the ending point, so to speak, if there is any ending points. But okay, but what's your goal, right? What's the main goal you want to achieve? And then you start to figure out backwards, right? How to get there. And this is what I think, what I call thinking strategically, right? So, okay, if I'm doing this type of research here, but there's only, I can only get a job in the same university where I'm working now, with the lab that I'm working now. Okay, but what are the odds, right? Who are the people that perhaps are, let's say, in front of me in the hierarchy, so to speak. So, and this is how you start to figure out the odds of getting a job where you want to get a job. But this is what I'm trying to say. This is I'm being very pragmatic, right? It's not always just that. And not always, for instance, if I want to get a job in academia, people say, okay, publish or perish, right? If you don't publish, you're not gonna get a job in academia. But it's not all that, right? Publishing is important, it's essential, right? It's necessary, but it's not sufficient. For instance, if I speak from an employer perspective, right? Because today, today I'm a professor in the university, and obviously there will be other candidates in the future, right, to fill other positions in the university. But who am I want to work with, right? What kind of person do I want to work with? For instance, if I'm conducting a research project, just like Olga was saying, if I'm conducting a research project either with the private sector or with the public sector, and I want to, and I have to speak with policymakers, and I have to speak with entrepreneurs and so on. I need people that can work with me, right? I need people that I can rely on, this kind of stuff. And sometimes not just someone who who's very productive in publishing papers. It's not going to be, the kind of people that you want to work with, because you have like thousands of departmental obligations that you have to conduct, right? You have to teach, you have to supervise. So it does not always boils down to publication, right? So publication is just a small part of the job that you have to conduct once you get in academia. And it holds for all the other sectors, right? Private sector and public sector and so on. So what I'm saying is, you must just to finish, right? You must have to think where you're gonna go, where you're gonna be at before you start making your plans.
Thank you, Rafael. So The reason why we're doing this session is because we are trying to tackle the challenge of for early career researchers in the community. The community is getting older because the people who joined in the beginning are getting positions. And then it's of interest for YSI and from the people who was engaged before to continue somehow engaged with the community. So we need to find places, to find possibilities. And I haven't been doing this effort alone. I have Cecilia Ricat as well, my colleague and friend, who has been taking the lead in this discussion. And I know Cecilia also has been in the job market looking for positions, finding possibilities. She got the best grant that's possible to have in Argentina. So Ceci, please feel free to add, to introduce yourself and to add your ideas and how it, share your experience on how it was for you.
Thank you, Danilo. Hi, everyone. I'm really pleased to be here. It's great to see so many friends from YSI telling their experiences, sharing with us, and meeting here, even though we cannot meet in person. And it's great to know that you're doing well, and all the experiences we are sharing here are not only experiences that we had, but also experiences that can help others in this moment. So the first thing I would like to say before going into my own experience, I think it's that you're not alone in this process. We're a lot of people going through the same thing, and if our experiences can help you to walk along this path without feeling bad, then that's great, and that's part of what we really wanted to do in the beginning when we started thinking about these topics with Danilo, with Jay. How can we help as YSI in this process, in this big bottleneck when you finish your PhD and you need to move forward, and whether you want to stay in academia or you want to do other things, how to move forward, and that part, I think it's not only about finding a job, it's also about finding yourself in a way, or finding yourself again. So in my experience, and what I would like to share with you is that the most important things I would say are two things, happiness and planning. So happiness, because this is about your life. So it's not just about finding the best position ever. There may be best position ever for many different people and so on. And maybe there is a ranking and it says that the best position is, let's say, I don't know, in Harvard University. But maybe you don't want to live in Boston because you don't like cold weather, because you don't have friends there, because you don't feel comfortable in the US. I don't know, there may be so many reasons that lead you to decide that that's not your position, and you shouldn't feel bad about it. You shouldn't feel that you're not a good researcher or a good scholar in general, professor, so on, if you're not choosing to go to certain places or to certain universities because of their orientation, because of the way they teach or what they teach. So happiness is always the most important thing, and it's the best asset you can have, because if you really like the position you're applying for, then that will be noticed. It's obvious when you write the motivation letter, when you have an interview. It's obvious when you are really looking forward to working with some people. And as Olga was saying, she knew where she wanted to be. So she was willing to make some choices, even though that meant to postpone things in her career just to arrive to where she wanted to go. And this is related to the second part also, to planning. Because if you know what makes you happy, if you know what you want in life, which also involves other people, like in my case it did, and I will share my experience of it, the places where I worked and the things that I did were always related to my partner as well, because we were deciding together. So that's another thing to consider. When you need to plan, sometimes you don't plan just by yourself. And when you plan where you want to go, then all this process of mapping, of networking, and so on starts. Because now I will move to my experience, because the criteria are very different around the world. In my case, I'm Argentinian. I started my research career as a research assistant as soon as I finished my undergraduate degree. And then I applied for a PhD fellowship here in Argentina from our research council, which I got, and I never thought I was going to spend part of my academic career abroad. Maybe if with a lot of luck and an incredible amount of funding that at that point I didn't know where that could come from, I thought, okay, maybe I can spend, I don't know, a month somewhere, but not more than that, or maybe I can go to a conference outside Argentina. Because for us, coming from a developing country, fundings are more than scarce. It's like a constant budget shortfalls, and especially for younger scholars. So I was not even thinking about going abroad. And when all that appeared as a possibility, it was really by chance, because a French researcher came to my lab and we started discussing, and we were working on the same topics, and he encouraged me to go to France to start collaborating. I knew French from school, so that was also easier for me. And we started working together. And at some point, they encouraged me to apply for a postdoc there. And I said, okay, because my partner at that time was also willing to live there in Europe, in particular in France, and he was applying for a PhD there. So everything was like moving on the same line. But when I arrived to France, I realized that my super good CV for Argentina was not a super good CV for France, that it was a really weird CV, because here we are asked to publish a lot during our PhD, and the list of journals that are considered as good journals, most of them are in Spanish. And of course, none of them are considered in France. And in France, it doesn't matter so much about the quantity of papers, but where you publish. You may have only one paper, but if it is in a rank 1 journal, then it counts way more than, 10 papers that are not ranked at all, like the journals are not ranked at all. So that process of changing completely my career, and at the same time having a clear idea that I wanted to come back. So I couldn't just publish 1-2 papers in great journals a year, because I was going to lag behind my colleagues in Argentina, regardless if my papers were going to be in better journals. So that was kind of crazy. But again, trying to focus on what made me happy and planning where I wanted to be was helpful. And of course, you can change your mind. And at some point, I changed my mind and I applied. In France, there is a system. You have like a 2-step system to be a professor there, like first assistant professor or lecturer actually, and then full professor. You need to first be qualified. And once you're qualified, you can apply for the positions. So at some point I said, okay, I want to stay here. I will ask for the qualification. I did, I got it. But then in the end, I was always uncertain about what to do. So I didn't want to apply to a position in France. And then what if I get the position and I don't want to stay in France? So I didn't do much with that qualification, rather than feel happy because I got it. And but I'm still thinking about it. I think that also the good thing about having now I have a tenure position here, and it's relaxing in many respects. Of course, not in relation to my research. I'm still doing research almost 24/7. I love my job. It's not what I encourage you to do. You should have weekends. You should work 8 hours a day. It's not what I do, but for different reasons. But I still think that once we get permanent positions, it's also interesting to keep our eyes open and think about possibilities in the future, which is actually what I'm still doing right now, but from a more relaxed perspective, like really thinking what can be better than what I have now, considering both my research career and also what makes me happy besides my research career. So I think that would be all from my side in terms of my experience. I'm really looking forward to hearing questions, and maybe we are focusing on some perspectives that are not what are worrying you the most. So feel free to jump in. And I'm sorry I arrived late. I had an issue at home that I solved like at 10:05. So that's why I arrived late.
Thank you very much, Ceci. Guys, feel free to jump in. I can motivate a bit the discussion based on my personal situation, because I did my PhD, finished it this year in UNU Merit in the Netherlands, in Maastricht, and then I decided to go for a postdoc. And I got a postdoc here in the Institute because I wanted some time to think, to publish, to have a portfolio of publication before applying to a more organized job, like more permanent job. I did that, and now I'm applying for the permanent job. And the thing is, when you apply through the job market, and I'm applying both for the European and the American job market, you apply for more than 100 positions. And then you keep, because it's easy for you in terms that when you enter the academic job market, the formal one, you just upload your files, and then you click on the positions you want to apply, and then you keep sending all the positions around. But this has a lot of psychological costs because it's very stressful. It's super stressful, and it's hard to continue publishing while you're doing this because you know that you have to organize your job market paper. You know you have to organize all your files. You know you have to go to interviews. You have to behave in a specific way because the interview is not like an informal debate. It's something very scripted. So you have to act as an actor in these interviews. And it's a kind of stressful moment. I was lucky because I already received some offers, so I can kind of make some dialogue with possible employers. But people who are still like insecure and anxiety and all this process. I mean, I'd like to touch a bit about this anxiety, this imposter syndrome that appears for us academics, this kind of things that we anticipate when we enter the market and generate so much anxiety for us because we don't know what's going to happen, especially now with COVID, because as I have seen in the US, the academic market's not so dynamic at this point. You have many people who are moving towards another job, but in the same sense, there are not that many positions open. So, I mean, do you have some insights, some thoughts? Anyone, please feel free to jump in. Jerome, I know you've been through the job market as well. If someone else, so please, everyone, feel free to jump in a bit on the psychological effects. And after that, I would like to ask, and maybe I don't know if I have time to do that, how YSI can help you? Or how do you think YSI could organize itself to help you in this new journey after you find the job, when you find it and after you find it? So those are things that I leave for the discussion. I don't know if anyone, yes, Olga?
I just wanted to briefly comment and also to bring the gender perspective in our discussion that I think is relevant both for female academics but also male academics who should support female career choices. I think a lot of anxiety, Danilo, because I mean, when you finish a PhD, you are about 30 or sometimes 30 plus. And then it's a time in your life when you probably also have some personal commitments and not always your partner. Well, it doesn't matter whether he or she is also in academia or another profession, but mobility can become a little bit, problematic. And then, but that's related to Cecilia's point. Number one is that, well, it's really about, happiness, fulfillment, right? So And sometimes these issues are actually more complex than that. Sometimes, people think, and also people who might say, of course, I support your choice, but in reality, how you implement that, you still have to negotiate, and that's I speak from my own experience. And I would like to emphasize that this is an issue, and I think I would encourage female researchers particularly not to really still dedicate, a lot of attention to their own professional choices and still try to negotiate rather than compromise. Because I see a lot of from my friends and acquaintances that for some reason career choices are more often compromised by female professionals rather than male professionals. So I really want to emphasize that that's a reality, and I want to really encourage everyone to think about it really like in constructive terms, and encourage our partners to really pursue their career choices.
Thank you, Olga. Anyone else would like to?
Well, I don't have a lot of advice to give. Really.
Yes,
I was more here to listen to advice. But I had a position just for 1 year now in France, and now I found another job. But by chance was the first one I applied to. So I haven't really gone through a lot of the whole procedure of sending 100 applications. And maybe, well, that's the only advice I could possibly give is I would probably not advise on doing that because, well, you're probably not ready to go to 100 different places, as Cecilia said. Of course, so you could just apply in order to get an interview, to get some training on, doing interviews. If you're not feeling comfortable doing that in general, I don't really have so much of a problem doing an interview if it's for something that I really want to do. So I didn't think I needed training, but then so for people who do feel ready, I would advise you to, as I don't know if Rafael said this, but yeah, choose the few places you really want to go to, and then put all your eggs in that basket. Of course, if it doesn't work out, then choose another one. But it allows you to have the energy to really know why you're doing this, and this will definitely transpire in interviews. If you know why you're applying for this position and you really want to do this, this can be sometimes much more important than all your publications, all your experience, and what have you. Because in the end, these people are choosing a colleague that they're going to be working with all day. And rather than having someone who's got a great CV, they want someone that they can imagine working with. And that is usually someone who likes to be there. So yeah, that's one advice I would give. I don't even know when I'm going to go to that new place because of COVID and everything. Now it's a bit uncertain. So yeah, I don't have a lot of experience in that.
Thank you, Jerome. Yesterday we had a very nice session with Cesar Hidalgo, Dawn Farmer, and Magda Fontana. And Dawn Farmer was talking about this role of of us as a community finding academic positions and then changing economic thinking by using our network, by creating the network, and how to. He puts something in the way that I have to explain. He puts how to make us become mainstream, but not that we want to start doing the same things as the mainstream, but we would like to find the positions on the top and to be placed with our research agendas on the top. And then we can, from this privileged position, develop and change what it is considered the mainstream. So we can bring our own ideas, bring our own discussions, bring our own debates. And he was somehow talking about this in a general terms, and somehow we can link it to the YSI. So do you think YSI could be a platform for us as a network to be working together in terms of looking for positions, and then as we become senior lecturer, we start engaging with YSI in a way that it can become we kind of mentor the new generation and somehow use this as a more organized and coherent work. What do you have thoughts about it? Something I have been thinking about, and maybe we could use this as a closing question for the session.
Maybe if I can jump in and comment on this question that Danilo was raising, and also on YSI as a whole, because it played a major role in my career, and I think that all of you as well. All of my colleagues that spoke before me. I think for all of us, it was very important, our path through YSI, to meet people, to discuss, to debate, to expand our horizons, not only in terms of ideas, but also in terms of who's out there, like the universities that are out there, the options that we have in different places and countries, and by reading new people that someone from YSI recommended us, we may end up, finding out that there were colleagues in, I say Canada, for instance, where I do know many researchers that I didn't know before that are doing great work. And it's great because even though you may not end up working with them in Canada, for instance, you can do research projects together, and they can contact you, and expanding these networks that go within and beyond YSI, I think that are great. We should, I think that we should, since we are getting older, I think that part of our commitment should be to try to keep expanding, but at the same time building the network. And also, I think that we should try to move one step forward. And this plenary has been a lot about discussing the challenging questions for research projects. The word research is out there all the time. And I think that it's on us, that we are not so young anymore, to try to suggest, build research projects for YSI, for younger generations, also to have experiences on how to work with others, how to publish. One thing that with Danilo we could map last year is that it's not only about the job market itself, but also how we arrive at the job market. Are we prepared? And how to prepare the CV, put it in simple terms. And that's related to many aspects. And YSI has covered some of them, for instance, organizing events, presenting research at conferences. That, of course, is mandatory, helps a lot. And networking for sure as well. But maybe there are some other things that we can do in terms of helping people to know how to publish, how to present themselves. I think the Trento experiment in that respect last year was big milestone, and it's so unfortunate that this year we had to cancel so many great things that we had planned. But I'm pretty sure that we will either find out ways to do this kind of meetings online, or also meet again in person as soon as COVID allows us to. But I think that there are many things that we can do as YSI, not only in terms of the actual process of letting people know that there are some positions that will be opened at a university or a national research council and so on, but also to make all YSI members feel more confident also about who they are, what they want to do. I think that's super important as well. And I think we have a question on the chat. The point Cecilia raised regarding publications, and that in various job opportunities, the publication value of various journals might differ. How does someone who will get a PhD or is doing it diversify? Yeah, the question makes total sense. And I think it's part of the answer was related to what Rafael was saying before. Once you map where you want to go, and you get in touch with the people, or maybe it's not getting in touch with the people, but getting acquainted with the requirements, with the type of journals they prefer, what's the orientation. So what I would suggest is and this is why I was insisting so much on planning, because planning in a way gives you guidelines. So if you say, okay, I want to work in Europe. Okay, Europe is big. Where in Europe? Okay, I don't want to work in a country that speaks a language I don't speak, and I only speak English, Spanish, and French. So let's say I'm thinking about the UK, France, and Spain. So I start narrowing down, and then I look at the possibilities there. And a good thing to do is, if you have a colleague from YSI that is from Spain, I mean, if I decide at some point that I want to try my chances in Spain, I would call like Ayose, for example. Because he's from Spain, and even though he's doing his PhD in Geneva, because he may know people and he can help me think who I can contact, the type of journals they prefer. So I think that that should be part of the path. In some cases, it's easier. For instance, in France, they have a list. And if you decide that you want to try your chances in France, the CNRS has a list, and that list of journals is also considered for the university positions. But the next step, definitely, for instance, it is the case in France, is to try to make sure not only that you have at least one publication from that journal, but also that the heterodox community knows you. Because that's the other thing. It's not only about networking, it's also in general, but it's also about knowing the rules of the game. And in some places, the fights between mainstream economists and different forms of plural or heterodox economists are intense, and our CVs generally are super telling about where we are. The best thing is to let people that have similar plural ideas know in advance that we are applying for those positions, not to make them help us just because we have similar ideas, but to have that in mind, because in case someone is just discriminating us because of our ideas, they can jump in and say, hey, no, because this person has this, and that. And it all depends on each university in some cases. In the UK, it also depends on the universities. It's not the same thing to apply for a business school position, which sometimes for economists is an option, than to apply for a university was not like economics department, typical economics department position.
Yeah, thank you, Ceci. Thank you. So we have one question. I think I'll have to close the session, unfortunately, because we only had 1 hour schedule for this. One question about the forums you regularly keep looking for academic job opportunities. I mean, there are many kinds of jobs. If you want to the job market, the official one, you have to go to the econjobmarket.org or to the GEL. There you can find the mainstream ones. Otherwise, there are some possibilities that people are already putting here in the chat, but I think it's something that we need to follow up, and I'll ask YSI so we can follow up this discussion because it's extremely important, so we can have another session maybe in the near future, so we can continue discussing that. And I'd like to thank everyone, to thank Rafael, to thank Olga, Peter, Cecilia, and everyone who is here for this session. I think it's nice that we have been trying to face the challenge for early career researchers right now. It's something new in YSI, and I think it's something that we need to start moving towards too. So YSI can include people who are alumni of YSI. So then we can have this relationship that creates the network that grows in terms of we all being engaged in this international community. So I thank you everyone for coming to the session. It was great. I really enjoyed it. And so keep connected, and there are many events going on. Thank you, guys.
Thanks a lot.
Bye. It was so nice to see you.
Nice to see you all.